Hello and welcome to episode 200 of the Imperial
Whoa.
Truth. My name is Greg and joining me is Howard. How you doing, Howard?
I'm surprisingly awake, considering a challenging few days and weeks, but I'm very good. How are you doing?
Yeah, I went through tired. I've come out the other side, which means it's going to be even a harder bump when it lands, but I am good. Before we go anywhere, let us talk about Element Games, where you can find all your paints, anything you need, hobby-wise. If you need it, it's probably Element. It's probably a really good price, and they're going to get it to you pretty quick. I need to actually put an order for paints in, which I might have to do very late tonight. I forgot to ask. Little spoiler for the show. We have Henry Steele on to talk paints. I need to get some blacks at some point, but yeah, you can find what you need at Element, and all good, frankly, all good. So yeah, what have you been up to, heresy wise? Anything?
Yes, I have. I have been doing some things. I've been continuing. Well, no, the newest thing on the paint shelf, which I'm looking at right now, is some Legio Metallica, because I
Oh,
picked up my ticket for Beachhead coming up, the big event down in Bournemouth that it happens every year at the moment, in February, and I am considering not taking the same Legio that I have taken, Legio Astorum, for the last couple of years. So I've got some Legio Metallica, which I might try and spruce up and work on. So I've got them to work on, and that's kind of it. Maybe that and a bit of terrain. That's all I've really been able to do since we've last spoken, with all the other bits and pieces going on. But yeah, trying to homogenize a couple of different paint schemes that were done over different times and improve on certain magnetizations and that sort of thing, trying to elevate them somewhat with weathering powders and that sort of stuff. So, because the hobby standard at that event is pretty high, and I'd like to be able to try and get that. I'm even considering doing something a little bit more elaborate with how to display them and stuff for that
ooh.
sort of thing. But we'll see how it goes. Try and bring the day job into play.
So Beachhead sold out, didn't it, for Adeptus Titanicus? Did
In
they expand?
12 hours,
12 hours, pretty good.
54 tickets. They just went
I
boom
mean,
like that. There is a waiting list
this is what
now.
you get for a lack of AT events, I suppose.
Mm.
But when you have one, it's going to sell well.
That one certainly has been pretty popular. So that one sold out really fast. Yeah, that one, yeah, did go, and because it's got a good all following of people who want to keep
Yeah.
coming back.
I was contemplating doing Blood Bowl at that event, but the guys who run the Blood Bowl aren't running it this year, and it's a one-day event. And I'm not going to justify coming down for a one-day event. I might have to have a little look around, see if I can play something else, but who knows? Because we're currently houses up for sale, so it's all a bit up in the air with what's going on here at the moment. So fingers crossed, might be
Yes,
looking at new house or something.
a house move combined with attending a tournament probably wouldn't go down brilliantly.
So it's maybe, maybe I'll have to reserve that for doing a different event. Who knows? But that's cool. So
What about you?
Metallica.
Have you been doing anything?
So not a lot, because spent a lot of time trying to get the house ready to be able to take photos of it. So there's stuff in storage at my parents' at the moment, hobby wise and other things and bits and pieces. But progress with the independent characters hobby challenge has meant that I have been working on my two of my Thunderhawks. I think I might only have two for Legions Imperialis.
Oh, nice.
So hopefully they will be done. We're recording quite near the end of. Oh no, you're not going to be able to see. I'm trying to show
Yeah.
Howard, but I'm not going to be able to show. Oh, camera's there. You can't see because the
Oh, very
lights are
nice.
rubbish
Yeah, I
this
get it.
up.
I get it.
Very simply done. But yeah, I've got 2 days to finish them off and get them posted to qualify for the system there. But it's good. It's a good driver. I kind of don't mind what I'm doing, just as long as I'm achieving something, because there's projects waiting in the wings as well that I'm trying to get a little bit better and doing a little bit better at getting down and doing some hobby, which is always, I mean, I say every month, right? Trying to find that time, trying to read books.
Oh yes.
relevant books without falling asleep, and as well as trying to be, a half decent dad at least, and yeah, maybe sometimes a half decent husband, but it's part of the fun, isn't it? So that's been my main heresy thing. Um, did start Dropsite Massacre, haven't got
Me
very
too.
far.
Me too. And what
Very
I've
good opening.
what I've listened to so far,
Are you
loving it.
listening? Yeah, I bought it. I want to read it, but I might give in and just listen to it at the moment because there's
Mm.
say so much stuff going on, um, to the point where I'm like looking at pulling back from some of the stuff I do. Because I mean, if I was organised, maybe I could do it, but I'm
Mm.
not a very organised person. So yeah, Drops of Massacre. I was trying to finish off a few other bits as well, but um,
Have you been
no.
attending the club that you go to?
Well, I mean, I missed two club nights this week through a van breakdown and being
Oh,
sat on the side of just north of
oof.
Arundel for 6 hours in the van, which meant I
Oh,
couldn't go to club and I didn't get back here and I couldn't even do anything when I got back here. So it's a right royal kind of thing like that. And then, in fact, the two games of Heresy I organised had to be cancelled. So
ugh.
yeah, and even then, last night I went to the club, played some Age of Sigmar, and I was so not with it. I was
Mm.
making so many silly mistakes. I was like, right, I need to get on top of this. Okay, that's fine. We're only recording tomorrow night, so that'll be an early night. Oh no, that'll be a midnight, gone midnight. I hope James
Mm.
doesn't wake up too early. Damn, clock's changing.
Yeah, oh
Um,
yeah, yeah.
so
We had a
yeah.
4:30 on Sunday.
Well, we were lucky. We went out Saturday night for Emma's friend's a lovely meal in Brighton. If you ever go to the Lion and Lobster, I
Mm.
had a pork scratching starter, and it was as big as my head. It was very
Jeez.
interesting, but yeah, we were out, so the boy was at grandparents, so they had the hour earlier, but he's still not fully on that time
Oh no,
schedule yet.
no, that
So
doesn't
yeah,
happen overnight, does it?
no, it doesn't. The best reason for getting rid of changing the clocks, in my opinion, kids and pets.
Mm. Mm.
It's because they just do not understand. But yeah, so progress. I've got a Blood Bowl event coming up, which I only just remembered like yesterday is in 2 weeks. So
Oh,
I've
right.
got to. I've got a team painted. I think I might have to check the bases are done. I think the bases might be done, but I need to double check what I'm doing with that before the whole game system changes and all the cool Blood Bowl stuff. Been looking at like today. A lot of the leaks have hit for the changes.
Mm.
Can see myself doing reading of Blood Bowl very soon.
I
But
wasn't too fussed because I got the second season edition,
sure.
whatever it's called, box, and it's still in the box over there. So I hadn't rushed to that, but it is priced quite aggressively, the new
Oh,
third edition box, and I was like,
allegedly, yeah, from what
oh,
I've seen.
oh, that's quite appealing. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, and now a Bretonian team. You're like, oh,
Oh, wow, yeah. So
maybe.
yeah.
I wasn't so keen. I thought, no, surely I can pass on this. But there's a lot of people talking about it and playing it, and
Oh,
people
there.
who haven't played before. Well, around here, I also, for the first time since COVID, since pre-COVID, went along to. I suppose you'd call it my local club, the club in central London,
Mm,
Seven Dials, the London Wargaming Guild, to meet some of the Legions Imperialis players that were over there, and just I've been part of the chat that's going on there, and just wanted to hang out, say hi, and drop off a few things. And yeah, that was great to see those games being played. It's
right.
such a cool looking game. But yeah, I mean, I'm biased. I
Yeah.
love all of the epic scale games, but wow, did that look cool? There was 4 games being played that night at that club. They, I mention it because they used to have a hell of a, still do, I think, have a hell of a Blood Bowl scene. You'd have 30, 40 people every week turn up to that and be really giving it some at Blood Bowl. But yeah, seeing Legions played there and played some really cool armies. Drew there, who had an all-tank Sons of Horus army at 3,000 points against an all-knight army from Salman, just looked amazing. Similarly, drop pods and things landing on the table opposite, trying out all the new units. Looks
Oh,
great. Makes me really want to get that on the table, play some games.
you've got me actually looking at how easy it would be for me to get to 7 dials. which is a
Common
pain in
garden.
the rear because of where I am. Yep. I could go up there and get into Charing Cross.
I was going to say, yeah.
Okay, interesting. Maybe I should do something. I kept meaning to go to Hate, but it was just not happening. But
There's a bunch of new hobby shops opened up in London, which
are there?
surprised me. There's a whole bunch of they've started popping up in different places. A couple in North London, a couple of the established ones have opened. Well, Abmoon has opened up a second branch
Have
up in
they?
North London. Yeah, they've got it's a smaller one, but there's quite a few board games cafes have existed for some time. But
Yeah.
the number of little shops are opening up, which I'm amazed that that's viable.
Well, I
London being
mean,
London, but it seems to be.
it might be one of those things where you've got like other properties are now not not as other businesses are less viable.
Less appealing. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe you pivot that way. But yeah, so
Okay.
there's a few opening up. But yeah, the Seven Dials club that's there got. It's just such a cool location. It's so handy for anyone working in London or central London particularly. It's so easy to get to. You stop off on your way home. Great food opposite and stuff. A great place to go
Well,
out.
I'm due an
Cool.
operation at King's soon, so
Ah,
maybe I'll take my Warhammer stuff up and go.
what's in the case? Is that medical? No.
No, don't worry about me. I'm just going for a quick walk. Yeah,
I'll be back
it's
in
all
8 hours.
fine. Yeah, don't worry about it. We'll see because I will be very bored otherwise. So yeah, awesome. Yeah, so that's basically my heresy stuff. There's lots of chatter going on about like we've had. I haven't had a chance to read through the Black Shields rules properly yet. I
Mm.
haven't had a chance to read through like to properly sit down and do it. I don't want to like flick through. We've got an FAQ coming. We should get into that into the news, I suppose. But there's a lot of chatter around rumours as well, which we won't go into about cool stuff. So interesting times.
Mm.
Right, let's cut that intro then, and let's go and talk some news. Well, we have a quietish news month for Heresy.
Mm. Ish, yes.
Ish. We've had, I say, only because I'm not going to go through the Black Shields, but download now or the Shattered Legions. Were there any highlights from that quickly? There's a lot of.
Generally, I've seen that I haven't got into the feedback over Shattered Legions. I've read through both. Generally, I've seen the response to both of those, much like the PDFs that have been released before them, very positively. Whereas I feel like the previous iteration, particularly of Shattered Legions, was a bit all over the place. It was a bit it was controversial, shall we say?
Yeah, do you
Whereas
feel?
I felt these have been much more positively received, and rightly so, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. But do you feel the response to the Shattered Legions was led by some of the reviewers? Do you? I felt that not that they didn't have valid concerns, but that maybe people jumped on it and just accepted their viewpoint and never looked past it.
You mean the previous version or this current
The previous
iteration?
version.
Possibly, yes. I think people were sort of waiting for those reviews, but that's why I say it was controversial because I saw plenty of
Mm.
people say I don't have such a big deal with this, but they were being forced to react to reviewers having a particular view. But this has continued in the vein of it seeming to slot in. I'm continually surprised at the volume of these and the fact that they're just the amount of work that must have gone into these for them to be released in the way that they have been as a free PDF. Now we've got Militia, Demons, Black Shields, Shattered Legions, General Legacies PDF. It's like that's quite a lot. That
Mm.
how these aren't in publications and they're really
Well,
thematic, and you think, well, okay, there's a lot of work gone into this, and they're just gifting
yeah.
it. It's like, whoa, good effort.
Well, we know we're getting Talons as a book at
Mm.
some point, so the free rules will disappear and people will then have to buy them. So I wonder if we do get these launched into that at some point.
Maybe.
Who knows? Who knows? I've heard. Yeah, I think it's only fair that we kind of look into those as their own things at some point, rather than go too much into it now. But I've seen the term, DLC being pushed around a fair amount with the way that heresy rules are coming out. And again, while there's an element of truth in that, ironically, if it's official and you have to pay for it, you won't be able to download it. But because they've moved away from that. But I also don't mind supporting a game financially. I don't think it's necessary. Well, I mean, we'll talk a little bit when we get onto the book, but I don't think it's necessarily egregious what they're doing.
Mm.
But yeah, we'll talk about that when we talk about on our main topic.
Mm.
What else do we have? Drop Site Massacre. So yeah, there's a video where John French talks about it. I've only just started it. I'm impressed. It's John French. It's very John French. It's good.
Mm.
Some people really surprised that it wasn't like Bolter porn, and I was like, it's John French. Like,
Mm.
this is not. It's not really what he does, and they never marketed it as being, heresy battles or anything like that. It was. I got the impression from the start that it was like, cool. There's more information about this thing
Mm.
because it's not been covered as thoroughly as it should be, and we're going to add to that. I don't know if it's people just not paying attention. I mean, I saw someone say, "Oh, I thought this was just a bunch of short stories," and it was like,
How
really?
did you get that?
Okay, yeah, like that's just like you can't have read anything to have got to there, so you've just seen it and assumed, like without even looking into it. But fine, whatever. People will do whatever. But it's good to see, and I
I
can't
really
wait
enjoyed
to
the
learn it.
interview. The interview with John, it really makes you excited for it. I saw that. Was really. I mean, I was waiting for this anyway. Excited for it, but it reminded me of seeing interviews with him at events and similar, and that getting you really
Mm,
up for it. So having that ahead of actually reading, listening to it, really sort of set that off. And it's I've really enjoyed the opening. I don't really know what I didn't come in with any specific expectations. I'd seen that interview, so I knew what
yeah,
it would do, but I hadn't really given it much thought. The opening sequence and the opening scenes covering what they do, I was like, oh yeah, of course, we haven't seen this, and this is actually a really interesting perspective to have. And as a companion to the Drop Site Massacre Journal Tactica, it's great. It's great to have, and sort of revisiting that particular point and period. And there's some really interesting perspectives that I think that book's going to bring, even though I'm only in the early opening sequences like you are.
yeah, it's cool, and yeah, say hopefully plenty more to come. What else do we have? The compatibility matrix.
Kind of a useful thing to have,
I think
actually.
this is again like we often come at this. This show's been running over 10 years. It's hard. Well, it's not hard, but sometimes you have to take the effort to see this from a different viewpoint. You know,
Mm.
um, or even just not just new people, but people who don't maybe aren't quite as deep in or don't live heresy, play other game systems. The ability to say, okay, here's what can go with what, and the as a marketing piece, just the kind of reminder and the confidence to go, oh, cool, yeah. If I buy a Mark 6 Command Squad, I could put any of these bits with them. Like to not get pigeonholed into buy a box, build the box. Like, because this is the way that heresy stays plastic,
Mm.
is
Mm.
this universality of weapons to models. Um, and yeah, anything that helps people build their armies, play the game, just makes sense to me.
Mm. Mm. And
You know,
I mean, it just hadn't occurred to me that
no,
the Legion Command and I mean, it's kind of obvious the melee weapon one was, but Legion Command being compatible with the Sky Hunter Squadron. I would have always just been
yeah,
locked in on the infantry. other infantry kits, and it's kind of, well, yeah, obviously these are. I say obviously, it's obvious when you're following it. To just have that in one place, yeah, and that makes perfect sense to me. But it's
There's also
actually
a
that you'd have
fact
this.
that if you're coming from a different GW game system, if you're coming from a
Yeah.
mainline GW game system, you are only building the unit, like just to play the games rules wise, you're building the unit that you get in the box. You're never going to another part to push it with this part. You know, you buy a box of whatever Space Wolf Terminators. They're the parts you use. So, you know, coming into Heresy and being like, oh, I can use all this other stuff. Like, that's new to me because I haven't played other game systems. Of course, you played other game systems, yeah. You know, and as you grow within the hobby, yeah, cool, good crack on. But I just think it's a nice touch, frankly, and I just hope that we will be getting another little Mark 4 in there.
Yeah, start to throw in some extra bits
Yeah,
in there, but
and
I mean,
whatever.
yeah, it's a useful little go-to, particularly, obviously, if you're coming to it new, but particularly as they start throwing in things like disintegrator weapons and otherwise.
Yes, awesome source. Uh, they've announced a preview.
Yes, they have.
I, I don't. Was I surprised? Maybe a smidge. Like, I wouldn't have been surprised if we never saw previews again. Like in that
Oh,
context,
okay.
because they obviously have issues. You know, they've the preview they cancelled for Nova. We don't know why they cancelled it. There's no official news. But you would think that Blood Bowl would have been on it.
Mm.
You would think that Chaos for Old World would have been on it.
Mm.
And I can't remember what else has come out or been revealed. But there's a few things. Now, it could be that there wasn't enough for them to do a preview in that period of time, that actually things got delayed and whatever. That's a possibility. And it could be just that they were fed up of the leaks and they couldn't control the leaks around the previews. So if it was the leaks issue, then I could have foreseen that previews had gone away.
Mm.
But it looks like maybe they'll be here for a handful of big events, which is what we wanted, right? Because we've talked about this. Fewer previews that deliver more.
Mm.
If they did 3 big previews a year, I'd be happy.
Mm. And the
I'd be
last
fine with
previews have seemed to have followed that pattern a little bit more, as everyone. I mean, we've said many times that the last couple of previews have been really, really quite good. This one must have had some of the sting, some of the punch taken out of it with what I mean. You say about leaks, Warhammer Quest Dark Water leaking as it did. I mean, they must be pretty annoyed about about that leaking the way that it did, because this being the sort of headline item of this preview.
Yeah, yeah. You can only assume that it would have been part of that.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, it's interesting. We'll see what they do with it because
Covering
again,
quite a
it's not.
lot. I'm surprised it's covering as many game systems as it is.
Well, again, though, right? If you're going to do fewer previews, then you're going to expand
Pack
what
them
you
in.
do with
Yeah.
them and make them hit, because otherwise you're getting people moaning. But you also, yeah, it just makes the preview worth watching. Like, if
Yeah.
you've got 4 items and Heresy's not even on there, like, are Heresy people going to be bothered? Maybe not.
Mm.
Catch up
Mm.
with it later. Yeah. So all good. I look forward to that. I can't remember when it is. It's like 8th,
Next Friday.
9th? Next
Next
Friday. Oh,
Friday.
Friday was Saturday morning for us.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, Saturday morning for us, as you say. Yeah.
I won't be staying up late. That is for sure. Okay. Golden Demon.
Oh yes.
Have you had a look at
I have.
the
I've been through all of the coverage actually. There was quite a bit of coverage on. There was some very impressive Instagram accounts that basically
yes.
photographed quite a lot of each. Certainly, a lot of the notable entries of the particular categories.
I'm following a few more Instagram accounts than I used to be. Probably, possibly too many now.
Yeah.
Interesting to see the Heresy one is 3 infantry models, even though Saturnine are big, and very different style on a couple of those.
Mm.
I think that's a real kind of okay. I mean, fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but there was a couple more heresy bits, weren't there? The epic scale stuff. James Tarrow's just doing it again.
Smashing it.
With
Yep.
yeah, and the painting the War Master Titan is the guy who won the gold in the heresy one as well.
Yeah.
Pretty fantastic. Yeah, I don't know. It looked. I wonder if watched Carl Payton actually. We talked to Henry in a bit. Watched their review of Golden Demon Spiel, and like answer that age-old question: is it harder to win it now than it was? And it's like, well, probably not. But I do wonder if it being a Spiel, which has not got the gaming around it, Adepticon, you get gamers who are there who enter, and not saying that they haven't got a chance of winning something, but they're not necessarily, they wouldn't necessarily go to the event just to enter Golden Demon. It feels like if you want to enter Golden Demon at Spiel, you're going to be dedicated. So I wonder if there's just an element of that raises that bar just a little bit by virtue of the journey to get there. The entry cost, as it were. But
You're committing. It did seem the standard was just off the chart on this one, particularly of this particular event. It seemed to be there'd be some real excitement of some big names who were really pulling out all the stops on this, particularly hearing people review who were painters themselves. It's sort of the painters competition. Painters painter.
it's just madness. What these people can do. Quite interesting to see how bright a lot of these models are. Which I've seen some people start to comment on, like, particularly Space Marines being painted very brightly now, which I'm sure has an effect on standing out. But it's wonder if it's just one of those phases we're going to go through. I wonder if we're going to see slightly fewer big resin pours going on soon as they've started to become extremely popular as well. I mean, the photo that's not online was that Green Knight, which was just phenomenal.
That was I sent that round. I mean, I sent that round to a few people just when I was looking through it, and when the things were starting to appear, that being so evocative. I mean, and it just thinking, how the hell did someone actually generate that? Yeah, quite impressed.
For sure. But apart from that, it's not. It's quite period. Relative. Well, I say it's not relatively quiet period because it's stuff we don't cover. It's quite big. But in terms of like giving us new stuff, I think there's people waiting with bated breath for breaches and what have you.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what's at this preview. I would assume, I would sort of guess at perhaps glaive breaches. Maybe we're going to see those in more detail.
Breaches, yeah.
Possibly some things we don't know about. I'm not sure. It would feel like it'd be an opportunity to do that, but those two alone would be things that would seem likely. Oh, the next Journal Tactica. That would be 3.
Yeah, at least the cover.
Yeah.
Or,
Legions Imperialis. My money would be on the super heavies.
Yeah, we're lacking some of those, aren't we?
Yeah. Marine super heavies, I would have thought are possible. For Legions. Sakaar and Venator, maybe. A lot of people really keen to see various gaps filled in the various army lists. There's no Mechanicum flyers. I don't think we'll see that anytime soon because there isn't anything suggested for them.
Yeah, less likely, but it also wouldn't be surprised me for them to be like, cool, here's a new Mechanicum thing for both games. Bosh. Quite a hard thing to get right, it feels. I don't know.
Some Ordinatus. Those would be quite cool. Because
Sagittar,
yeah, exactly. Those lend
That would
themselves
be
really
awesome.
well to this scale. So that would be quite fun. I doubt it. There's things. There are people asking for light armor for solar auxilia, so stuff like that. The Carnodons and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's plenty still
there's
to come.
stuff. I would have thought we'll probably see another 4 boxes. They don't seem to release things in small scales. For legions, they tend to be 4 boxes of things. But
Waves. Yeah.
yeah,
Awesome. Well, yeah, we'll
cool.
find out soon,
See
won't
what
we?
that is. Yeah, it's only a week away.
Brilliant. I don't think there's any other news. I mean, we're 200. Right,
Yeah.
official 200 episodes. It's not bad. I was looking up. I think you joined us on 135.
Oh right. Okay.
I don't know if you were a regular guest at that point. Well, co-host, should I say?
Yes,
But I
there was a
could be
point where I
wrong.
was coming in. I think we spoke a couple of times on things, but yeah, I couldn't remember when that was, frankly.
No, I'd have to. I was like, oh, I must go back and check, and no, I never did. I had a quick look. Definitely on 135. You're on there. Just yeah. Thanks to everyone for listening. Like long time.
Must be, yeah, there's enough to talk about that you can just keep going
Oh,
with that. There is
there's
always
always stuff to talk
something to
about.
talk about, yeah, and the
And
fact we can
organised
sustain
people
those
would do it even
conversations.
better than us. Yeah. So
What are you talking about?
but we're
I've been putting lists of questions together and all sorts of things. Topic
yeah
notes.
we definitely had a little chat about like the show and going forwards. So you might start to see some changes. It might not happen straight away, but let us give us your feedback on that. Um, there's a lot of heresy content out there now. Some people only put their stuff on Spotify and they're all evil. Please, if you're doing it, because you can't get a direct download URL from Spotify. So if you are putting your podcast on Spotify and you want people like me to listen to it, please also host it somewhere like SoundCloud as well, where you can obtain a URL, because Spotify is a horrible, horrible, horrible app.
Wow. I used to have it
Terrible.
many, many years ago for music, but
I can't stand it.
couldn't imagine it. I didn't imagine it really as a podcast platform, but the more I hear about it, the
So
more it is.
frustrating to me. And I'm sure
Wow.
for 99% of people, it's absolutely fine. They have no issues. But it's just, yeah, I hate using it. So, but anyway, that's,
There you go.
that is me. That is my hot take for this episode. Spotify can get in the bin, although we're probably going to sign up for an account because trying to find a single song for James to listen to of anything is incredibly difficult without paying for it. It will give you mix edits and hide it in everywhere. Anyway, that's a completely different story. Let's take a break there and let's have a little chat with Henry about some paint.
Yes.
I'd like to welcome to the show Mr. Henry Steele. Hello, Henry. How are you doing?
Hello, mate. Very well, thanks. Thanks for having me back on. Nice to chat to you chaps. It's been a little while.
It has indeed. So, for those who don't know, Henry, you are one part of Cult of Paint.
I am. Yep.
The ever increasing team at Cult of Paint.
it's just 3 now. Not.
Is it?
Not that.
I thought
Yeah,
you got some
we're not.
painters though.
Yeah, we're not pretending to be some mega corp thing. We are. Yeah, no, we have a team of freelancers in the commission
There
studio.
we go.
They're a good bunch. Yeah.
So it's,
but
it's 3 and a bit.
3 and a bit. But yes, we recently brought Ben on full time, which is fab. He's someone we've known for a long time anyway, and he's been running the commission studio for a few years anyway, but he's now he's now helping out, which is awesome, and should be seeing the fruits of that from a content point of view in the new year as well, which is cool, because Ben, I don't think I've known anyone who's painted as many minis as Ben.
That's
through
something.
work,
Wow.
yeah, through working as Games Workshop person and then being a commission painter who's, I think he's worked for everyone bar Games Workshop pretty much.
Sure.
So like when you walk into these shops and you see the box art for things like Mantic Games or Dropfleet or Baron's War, all these things. That was Ben. Ben just did all of that stuff.
Wow.
So he's got a wealth of knowledge when it comes to really efficient army painting, and I think understanding what makes a great gaming army, like
Sure.
where you can be efficient and where you can push things further and dial things back and actually end up with an army, where you have it before you run out of enthusiasm for the project. So Ben and Andy, obviously Andy and I started it, and Cult of Paint, we mainly do tutorials. Really, it's our thing. We video tutorials, in person painting tutorials. That's kind of our shtick, and then a few other fingers and pies around the community.
I'm sure most people know of you, but Cult Paint on YouTube, you've got a Twitch channel as well, which you're going to be doing your Culture of Paint, which is, we've talked about it on the show when it used to run, when Culture of Paint used to be a thing. And obviously Andy being Andy Wardle of Too Many Golden Demons fame.
What, just won another couple, this
Yeah.
week in God. Yeah, that's right. So Culture of Paint's the podcast we did for a few years, few years, on just chatting around the painting scene, really. All these gamers get these brilliant podcasts and events and things to listen to, and we thought, well, see if we can do one to do with painting. And that took a hiatus for about 6-12 months, just while we've basically just changed the business and changed our personal lives and stuff. And it's nice. We're back in a groove with that now. We've had a couple of weeks on the trot, and the plan is, so go check that out. It's all over the shop, Twitch and YouTube and all that. So you know what it's like. You can't do this hobby without sticking a microphone in front of your face and talking about it.
Well, no. It's full of middle-aged white men. That's why.
Ta-da! Yeah, and if you're expecting anything different from Culture of Paint,
no, absolutely not. And of course, we might as well get all the plugs out of the way at the start. You're going to be doing some courses, painting courses, because that's where Cult of Paint.
Absolutely. And it's been, I think we're 7 or 8 years old this year. I can't remember which one. And Andy and I had taught for a couple of years prior to that as well. It's where we started. It's where we cut our teeth. It's very important to us. And we fully intend to be back on the road, full time basically, as of January, or very early February, I think is. Either late, I can't remember. But we'll be doing the circuit next year as well. So I'm just waiting to hear if we've got our Adepticon classes, which is really cool. Because I've missed it. We used to go to Australia and America and Europe and all this, and I've really missed seeing people and doing those classes over there. So can't wait. Airbrushing, hairy brushing, master classes, weathering, all sorts. This, that, you name it. We like.
I need to do a class at Adepticon or a live podcast with enough people that will pay for it, because otherwise I can't justify going for a while.
I've never ever been, so I'm very excited.
You are missing out.
Me neither. Me neither. It's a real miss on the calendar, but I think it's gonna. Is that going to be your first?
It's been my first proper con. I did.
Wow.
I did Beachhead this year. We did Beachhead this year. We talked that, and that was wonderful. I really enjoyed that. I'm really looking forward to. So that's down on the south coast of England. I'm really looking forward to going to that. I've run a few small, I guess they're not really cons, but I've run a few small like gaming hobbying retreats and getaways and things like that. But I've never done like an Adepticon or a Nova, or a Salute doesn't count as a con, does it?
No, Salute's a gaming show.
And that
trade show really.
Salute I did for years and again, but really what we're going to chat about today, the paints, is I'll be back at events now because we need to be at the events with the paints. So
that's the way in. You need staff. You need staff. I need to talk to you and Byron.
Need money to pay the staff.
Right, you're
famed painter Greg Dan, of course.
I can stand on a booth at Element Games, Artist Opus booth.
You're all right. We'll stick a high-vis jacket on you and
fetch hot drinks for people who paint and try really hard at it. It's all good. Yeah, I can manage Richard Gray for a weekend. It's fine.
Maybe you can carry him around like. What was it? Not Master Blaster. What was the one where it was on the shoulders?
Yeah, Master Blaster on the. Yeah. I mean, that's a slightly different one, but that's a little bit beyond. That's very 40k, to be fair. But I could push people out of the way. Richard Gray coming through. It would be fine. Anyway, so you mentioned some paints. So you have a Kickstarter up in conjunction with Byron, Artist Opus.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Also, Mini Colour, a new range of paints for painting your minis with.
So I'm going to lead the first question before Howard jumps in.
Oh yeah, okay.
Why do we need another range of paints?
Well, you don't. But if you want some,
Hold
Great
on now.
sell.
I mean, for
there's some really good
collectors like
ones.
me.
It's really some really good ones coming. Yeah, so it's a very good question about why make another range. So for us, when we started 5-6 years ago, there weren't a ton of ranges around, but irrespective of that, and since we're getting ranges coming and going and all of that, we still felt very strongly that it was worth doing, and it's largely about giving something to the community. So I think Colt has never been Colt has always wanted to integrate into the community and improve the community, by which I mean the painting hobby community. We've got an awful lot from it, whether that's competitive, whether that's relaxing, whether that's meeting friends, whether whatever. But we've tried since the get-go to give to it as opposed to take from it. And we felt that longevity is important with that. We've had an airbrush thing for 7 years, I think now. The airbrush has gone. We've just released the second generation of them, and that genuinely helped bring airbrushing into Warhammer painting. It brought it more to the forefront. It made it more visible, which is awesome because it's a great tool, and lots more people have now heard of it, and now they can use it, which is super cool. So that it feels like that was definitely a worthwhile thing to do. Now, obviously, we got something from it. We got exposure. We partnered with a big brand, and we would make less than a cup of coffee on an airbrush. But there were tangible. Of course, we were getting things from it. We're a business, but what it was it showed us that you could do something long term in the industry. You could affect it positively, and make a living from the community.
Sure.
By having various sort of projects, and the paint, we not long after the airbrush was successful, the launch of that, we started thinking about what else could we do, what could we bring. And if there was something we felt we couldn't do any better, then we didn't bother doing it because it was already being done, and we would use it and we'd shout about it, and that was it. But when it came to paint, there's many brands that we loved using, and there's many brands we're still going to use. People have said, "Oh, you're going to stop using all the paints. It's just going to be Mini Colour now." Not at all. We'll still use paints from all sorts of brands where we want a specific property or maybe a niche colour for a job and things like that. But the colours we would use frequently, that we would rely on, we were like, oh, what if that brown was just a bit more this? And what if we could get this red to be a bit punchier? And what if we could get it? And that sort of led us on to going, well, let's see if we can do it. And it turns out, yes, we can. It just takes a really long time
I think that's important though, because that must to be able to maintain it over that period of development. It speaks to, well, yeah, we kind of think that there's something to this, because it would be hard if you were trying to think we're trying to fill a niche, we're looking for a niche. That doesn't sound like that's the case here. As you've we're actually going to do our own thing anyway. No.
Yeah, they're not niche paints. They aren't extreme in any facet of them. They're color. If you wanted to what's the USP thing? They're very much color led, and by which I mean, if you look at all the different aspects of paint, so you've got I guess cost, you've got coverage, which a lot of people are very very vocal about and think is very very important. You've got finish, so things like how glossy something is or how matte something is. You've got, is it an airbrush paint, is it not? But all these sorts of factors. And then color is where the power, the strength of the color, the power of the color in the paint. And you can't create a range where it's this and then you just change the color. So it's the same paint and then you just change the color of it. That's not how paint is made. So you inevitably have to make compromises to create the paint. And we're also working with a unique challenge, which is the size of the things we paint. They're really friggin' small. So that affects stuff as well, which you don't necessarily think about, and neither did the manufacturers. So we're working with a very well established 100-odd years company in the British company that makes paint for everyone from NASA to London buses to hobby paints to Dulux paints, all sorts. There's not many factories that make paint. Basically, they know what they're doing, which has been brilliant. And then we've just worked incredibly hard with them over 5 years, revisions and revisions and revisions, and going up and talking about. And Andy and Byron's done a hell of a lot of work at the actual factory with it. But there was always this sort of quiet confidence that we would get there. We'd get there when we got there. There was no rush. Neither of our companies are planning on going anywhere. We want to be in this industry in 10, 20 plus years' time, and hopefully be an important part of the industry. And we felt that producing this paint range that reflected what we love most about painting was a really valuable thing to do, and a valid thing to do. And if we enjoy using them, there's probably a good chance other people will enjoy using them. So color was top of the bill. And what you'll get, I'll use Games Workshop as an example because I think that's a brand that most people are familiar with, Citadel Paint. And Citadel, rightly or wrongly, Citadel do focus a lot on coverage. Whether that's via a concept or a process such as contrast paints, which I'm a huge fan of. If you watch this channel, I think they're a brilliant product. I really do. And that's one way of achieving coverage. And the other way is essentially, slap one thick coat on it, and it does the job, kind of thing. And you can create paints that cover any paint, really. You can make it cover well, but it usually comes at the expense of the power of the color. And it's something that's called dirtying up. So essentially, you take a red, would be pure red, and to make it cover better, you would put grey into it, and automatically it's going to cover better now. But what it ends up becoming is a little bit grainier because of the pigment, and desaturates the color, so it makes it basically more dull as a color. But it now covers really well. So that's where I'm like, you've kind of got to choose what it is you want the thing to do. And say at the other end of the scale, you'll have things like, say, inks, which are incredibly sort of powerful colors, but they are completely translucent. You can see through them, so you could never really base coat using one. So that's where people have chosen to go right to sort of the other end of extremes. And then you've got brands, specialist brands. You've got things like Scale 75, whose paints have a very, very matte finish. Not their metallics, obviously, but their scale paints have a very, very matte finish, and that was a deliberate choice. That's what they wanted, and that's super cool. But by having that agent in the paint that gives a very, very matte finish, it means that, for instance, if you try to thin them down to glaze, so if you try to thin them down so you can put a really see-through layer of the paint over to like tint a color, or just to be very subtle with it, they'll tend to either split out very, very quickly, by which I mean it sort of all goes bitty and doesn't matter. But also, again, it goes a bit lumpy. So as people who generally paint in a way where we will paint our sort of highlights and shadows in, and then we might glaze over the top with another color to sort of tie it all together, those paints didn't really work terribly well for us. And then as soon as, say, Games Workshop paints were further grayed up, further dirtied up, they didn't really work very well for us. So we started thinking, okay, well, what let's make some that do work for us. So they're going to be color led. They thin very, very well with water. So you can thin them down with water. I've been playing with some this week, and I've almost made them into a wash consistency, and they're not breaking up, and that's super cool. Because of how I paint and how Andy paints, and how Byron paints
as well.
Just with water, you don't need any
a number of times now. I'm sitting with different mediums and different things here,
right?
You get a bit lost.
You do, and it complicates things, right? And this is something we say, going right back to the start. This idea of wanting to give to the community. By the community, I mean as broad a section of it as possible. I think between Andy and I, we tend to cover sort of very focused display painters, that love really crunchy detail and sort of hyper focus on things, and then right the way to sort of people that are painting to just relax, or are painting because they want to get a nomination for a best army at an event, or or just purely for enjoyment. And I think we cover a lot. And then by working with Byron from Artis Opus, I think he brings yet another sort of group that he appeals to. So we're trying to appeal to as many people as possible, and I think, and not in a way that dilutes the product. because that's a risk, right? You try to please everybody. It's not a case of trying to please everybody at all. It's about making a product that's good. And if the product's good, then the really high-end snobby painters will use it because it's good. And your person who's just getting into the hobby and might have gone on YouTube and found one of our videos, they're going to use it too because there's no barrier to entry. There's nothing weird that they've got to figure out to paint with it. This one coat of this red it hasn't quite covered. We'll do another coat then. Oh, looks great. It's that sort of that's about as complicated as it gets.
Your point there about it not trying to please everyone, I don't take it as that. I think what that says to me, what you've just described, is the paint range that you've developed is benefiting from that range of experiences, and saying how can we draw from that something we want to try and achieve, and if that achieves something for you, then it's likely to have applicability elsewhere, shall we say?
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes back to your sort of earlier question of like why should I get this paint, like Greg said, and there's sort of this slightly strange feeling with it is we're so confident in it as a product that all we can do is provide people with as much information as possible about it. So we're going to, as we have been already, we're going to talk to people about it. We will have videos out which will show the paint going on the models in various applications: airbrush, dry brush, hairy brush, all of that. There will be a website which will have all the technical data to do with the paint. Some people really care about that. And all we can do is give them as much of that information as we can and as reasonable. There's no point wasting 2 hours of your life trying to please one really fussy person who was never going to buy the paint in the first place. So I'm not talking about literally everybody, but most people. And then they can make an informed decision as to whether that paint's going to improve their hobby. And we can just sort of, I hope it isn't arrogance. I don't think it is, but there's just a very quiet confidence that it's like, and we've seen it bore out, for instance, at MPO, which is our painting contest earlier in the year, and particularly at Spiel this weekend just gone, where people came to try it out. And some people were completely fresh. They had no idea what was going on. But a lot of people who turned up to the stand to try it were skeptics. This was Golden Demon. A lot of people there were proper nerdy painters. And they're very suspicious and this, that, and the other. And every single one of them that got to play with it was like, oh, okay, yeah, cool, I get it. And some of them were like, that's awesome, I'm in. And the others were like, oh, yeah, okay. It does have a point. It's not just Cult of Paint have slapped their name on X company's paint. So it's a very strange position because you're sort of you need to be shouting about it, but I'm like, we don't have to convince anybody because like, what's the point? Like, just give them the info. People are bright enough to understand, or alternatively, they have no desire to dig down into all the crunchy stuff. They don't want to get bogged down in all of that. What they do want is somebody's opinion to trust. And again, I think that both the companies, both Artis Opus and Cult of Paint, have shown that we have years and years behind us now of serving the community, of giving to the community via tutorials and products and things. So I feel like there's a little bit of weight there that people are like, okay, these aren't just someone out in the middle of nowhere, And we did we had loads of fun doing the advert for it. We're like, let's make a proper like M&S Nigella Lawson style advert for the paint because it's a giggle, right? It didn't need to be explosions and buy this paint, it's amazing kind of thing. We're like, nah, let's have fun and do like M&S style paint and just show you how lovely this paint is. Sorry if I'm rambling a little bit. It's quite nice. This is the first actual poddy I've done, interview I've done about it, so it's really nice to sort of talk to people that haven't been involved in it at length.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I put some points together, but you're covering most of those with this, and it's sort of trying to remember some of those. But I think that's I think that's that was a point I really wanted to come to because I'd heard you talk about it on some of the other material. You say the glossy marketing. That point where you're saying throwing weight behind putting information out there. That I think differentiate. I mean, it's already tempting to say there's a differentiator by saying it's not a product company coming out with a paint range. It's a different kind of thing. Like even telling my wife, like, oh, just going off to record with Cult of Paint. What's Cult of Paint? I was like, oh yeah. Point. It's a brand.
It's like our accountant. Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, but you're coming at it from a different place. Whereas others, you're like, oh, it's a games company first, a model company first, a hobby products company first. This is coming from a different place, and immediately saying we're going to throw a load of information behind this. We're going to throw that data out there. Data seems makes it sound a bit cold, but you know what I mean. Opinion,
No, it's information and
support.
education.
Yeah,
that's
huge.
That's exactly it. Yeah, you know, color is the driving factor behind the very product itself, the paint itself, but the education is a very close second to it. Because that's something we do feel very confident that we can provide that others don't. Others don't or can't or won't or whatever the word is there
perhaps
is
don't go far enough. I mean, I was thinking of how have others done that. You get color triads, you get color systems, you get things that are put forward that way to make painting
but they don't
easier, but it's not done.
It's not. It's to use our product this way.
Yeah.
It's you're not educating, in my opinion, not educating the person. And I'm not saying, and I'm like this with a lot of things. I don't want to learn half. My brain is full. So most like to learn something new, something else now has to leave it. So I'm of an age now where there's certain things fascinate me and I want to learn about them. And then there's other things I'm just like, right, which of my friends, whose opinion do I care about on this subject? Right, Greg, tell me, what do I need for this? And I'm fine with like, I'll just do as I'm told. And I completely get that with the hobby as well. Sometimes you don't need all the stuff that goes around it. You don't want to have to learn how to create paint, to use paint. And I think that's why like the Citadel system has always had a big appeal, and it's why triads, even though there are a lot of people that use the term and don't produce them, but this triad isn't just 3 paints.
No.
But that whole idea of that, base highlight wash or base wash highlight, it's really cool. Having systems is really cool. But what we're wanting to show is everything you can do with the paint. So it's everything from, okay, here's cardinal red, right? What happens if you shade it with this color? Well, this is what you get. But if you prefer this sort of red, well, let's shade it with this color instead. And let's highlight it with this color. And what happens if you mix it with these? What's it look like through a dry brush? What should it look like with a hairy brush? What's it look like with an airbrush? What's it look like on a plastic model? You'll see all of this information before you have to buy it. Because again, although it's a Kickstarter and it's succeeded, which is great, which means we can go to market with it. We were determined to go to market with it. So this Kickstarter it's the full range. That's it. There's no options. There's no nothing. It's very much a sort of, when you can like get a video game a little bit early. It's like the Founders Edition type thing.
Yeah.
That's all this really is it offers you a good saving on what it will be at retail. You'll get a big fancy box that they go in that no one else will get, and you'll get them earlier than anywhere else. But that's it. There's nothing more to it because we are so proud and confident of the product that we were like, it's going to retail. And it's going to retail. And this was a huge benefit of working with Artis Opus on it. Byron and Greg, who are Artis Opus, the founders and the owners of Artis Opus, they also founded and owned Element Games, your longtime sponsor. Check Greg's affiliate link in the description and all of that.
No one checks the affiliate
crystals
link.
And other things. but they have
Howard using each other's.
they have a huge distribution network and knowledge of distribution globally, both companies. So the intentions is this paint will be in hobby shops all around the world. We don't want this to be a weird little niche paint that you can one and done. This is something that and we're confident that won't be the case. We know the factory that produces it. We know they can deal with demand and creation of the paint. We know we've got distribution networks in place now. It shouldn't be that you get it where there's 6 months go by and you can't get X color and things like that. That shouldn't be the case. And again, that was all part of that idea of, if this won't make painting better, don't do it. It's just vanity otherwise. And there's way better things to do with that.
I think it would have been really
the margins in paint are not worth.
I think it would have been really easy to fall back on that and be, hey, we're going to make this one little thing because this is one little aspect, and actually, we'll see how it goes. And tentatively, that sounds like the ambition is fairly solid with this. I mean, that's presumably
huge ambition.
Long. Yeah,
there's huge ambition with it, mate. I genuinely want this paint to be here in 20 years' time. I want it to, I want when you walk into a hobby shop, you see a Citadel rack, you see a mini color rack. It's and if that sounds arrogant or that sounds pie in the sky or whatever. It's not, it's tempered, it's realistic, and we believe it's viable, to do, and it's cool. I'm not going to lie. Like last week, and obviously we've had iterations of the colours, but none of us have still had the full set on our desk at one time,
Right.
because of the way it's changed and done. But last week I was painting a load of scenery for and an Empire army for Warhammer Fantasy, and I was sat there painting it all with 90% just our paints. I've never been happier. It's been incredible. Like, what a buzz to do. And I've said it before, like, most people aren't getting rich in this industry, so you've got to enjoy it. And like, come on, painting old Warhammer models with our paint. Yeah, go on. I'll take that.
I definitely think, because I mean, I don't know what feedback. I mean, obviously, within circles of where I see people talking about your stuff, I know a few painters and I know people who know you, so it's all very positive. I'm sure there are people online who are less positive. That is
Absolutely, yeah.
That is the nature of the beast. But when you're talking about a 5-year, plus commitment to try and creating something, and then you create it, by definition, it's not a fly-by-night, get-rich-quick scheme. And as you say, hobby products, the margins aren't where other people think they are. So when you're doing it in that manner, like, why are you putting it out there? You're putting it out there because you're confident, and there is ego becomes a thing. If you make something good, like, it's not a bad thing to be proud of that.
No, absolutely.
To want to share that, and that's something I think we should all remember. Like, people talk about sportsman being, oh, he's full of himself. Yeah, because he knows he's really freaking. Oh, Rory McIlroy at the Masters. Someone said, "Oh, someone so and so said you think you're really good." It's like, well, I am really good.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really, really good. So knowing your worth as well of the things that you make, of what your skill set is not a bad thing to have, as long as it's the right side of the line.
Absolutely, and I think that's easier when it's a product too, because there isn't that. It's not that idea of self-worth, right? And that's
Yes.
a whole very big, deep rabbit hole, probably not worth going into on this podcast. But yeah, so that's it's a very good place to be in, and I think I can speak for all three of it, or four of us, Greg as well. Like, we're just excited for people to have it and start painting with it, because I just take the browns, for example. Right? There's 2 brown sets. There's 12 brown paints. And anyone who's watched my videos will know I quite enjoy dull things, and I like a bit of brown and leather and all this, that, and the other. I would be astonished if anyone picked up those browns and didn't use them forever as their go-to browns for doing all the different leather recipes, or your hair, all those sorts of things, because they are just perfect for it. Because they are pretty much all the browns we've loved using, but better, with a couple that didn't exist. A couple of colours that weren't quite there, so which we feel the gap that they weren't there. And just the excitement of hearing. I can't wait for my mates about them using it and go, oh yeah, bloody hell, like, chocolate is really good, isn't it? I'm like, yeah, it is. Like, I told you, like, I wasn't fibbing, and that's why we're selling it as a set, as a core set. It's 10 sets of 6, and then 2 blacks and a white, and that was trimmed down from. I mean, we've developed, over the years, probably nearly 200 paints. We've distilled that right down. There's probably another 50 or so, or 60 paints that we've got really far into development for release in the future. It'll be straight to retail. It won't be Kickstarter and stuff. But those are what I would call specialist paints. They're not specialist in the sense of they require special skills or whatever to use. But what we wanted to do with this core set, which is what we keep calling it the core set, is that we wanted it to be a set of paints that you could buy in its entirety and use nearly all of it. Like, I don't know about you, like, I'm pretty sure Howard's guilty of this. Guilty is the wrong word. I'm pretty sure Howard's a bit of a paint whore, like I am. And you'll buy a box of like 8 and you'll only use 3 of them. Or yeah, right, there you go. Show me on camera now. Yes, yeah, wow. Make room for 63, my
I
heart.
feel like this is a safe space. And I may or may not already have a rack put aside ready for these.
Good lad. But yeah, so that was it. That with the core set was we wanted it to be where if you bought this, you would use nearly all of them. Obviously, there'll be the odd one someone is less likely to use, but and that's been bore out by us testing them. Because when we have been working on something and we've reached for that X color, it's ours we've used. And if it's not been ours we've used, we've looked at it and gone, why? And sometimes there's just a good reason not to do it, because ultimately maybe it is a bit niche. Maybe it doesn't belong in this core set. Maybe it doesn't belong there. So let's not put it in. And therefore you can keep this set tight.
That's hard. Yeah. That's really hard.
Very, 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 very
that is
hard.
Why it's. I was going to say, what were the big? I mean, it was one of the questions I had. There was like, what were the big challenges that led to it being such a lengthy product time? I think you've spoken to that already with the amount of inputs that you were having into that.
Yeah, color choice. Yeah, choice was a big one, but also this idea that we wanted it to work well with the airbrush and the paintbrush. And two hairy brushes, really, dry brush and a hairy brush. And again, you're never going to get one paint that's perfect for all of it. But what we've ended up with is a range that you can use in both without drama. And that's challenging.
So I just want to jump in there for a second.
And
so
expensive.
First off, I should mention that Howard and I haven't got these paints. Like, no. We're not sitting here with these paints. Like, Henry is a friend. Let's be fully open and honest. Henry's a friend. I think Henry's good people. I think Cult of Paint and Element Artists Opus are good people. And I was quite intrigued by this paint. That's why we invited Henry on. But let's be upfront and honest. We haven't used the paints yet, so cool.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to go somewhere else with that as well. But you keep talking about liking the paints. So I've heard some talk about how paints work. Essentially, you've got to have one kind of base that works across the whole line. Is that correct?
Correct.
So different paint lines have different attributes, and a lot of that will come from the base of the paint, will determine how the colors can be made and what goes through it. So what is it about these paints? Is it the base or the colors that mean they work so well for you on a personal level?
So it's the clues, like you said there, the clues in the name. The base is super important, and once you've established that, you can then go on and add color, and then you can add, I suppose, seasoning, for want of a better term. Tweaks. You can have a base that goes quite far in this direction to allow you to do this with a color, and then you can mitigate it by using some additives or whatever. But the more stuff you're adding into the paint, the more complicated it becomes potentially to use, and again to thin, and again, because this paint's made for how we paint, and that, like I said to you before, it tends to be layering up and then glazing back.
That's the other point, just before we go on. Henry, you paint armies and for your units for display for showing on the thing. Andy's very much single figure, high end, generalizing here obviously. And then Byron is known for his dry brushing and his quick painted, get it on the table effectively and well, but like that's what he puts out the videos for. 3 different types of painting.
They are 3 different types of paint, but I think whilst the 3 of us are all different painters and have achieved different things, all 3 of us are hobbyists, passionate hobbyists who have painted many armies for ourselves over 10, 20 years each. We've all painted for competition. We've all won painting a competition. So there is a breadth of there's a common breadth of sort of knowledge of what is required for different styles of painting. And then technique wise, obviously we've all chosen to not specialize, but we by dint of how we do for work, Andy paints essentially what Andy paints and documents it, the display stuff. I tend to paint to educate, and Byron paints to educate, but also to show off the products that Artists Opus make. So we've
heavily overlapping Venn diagram.
Yeah,
Do you agree?
absolutely. And I think I don't think there's another paint range out there that has been created. And I really I was like, guys, we've got to use the whole like by painters for painters thing because it's actually true kind of thing. But I was argued that was too cheesy. Which is
Has its place.
absolutely correct. It is, but it's also true.
I'm going to write that in the comments of every Artist Opus thread, every
There's
Colour
a
Paint
T-shirt
thread.
here. There's a T-shirt.
But you know,
coming out,
you know,
see
I'm getting at. You know, you've
Yes.
got many of these ranges are created by either a company that wants to simply make a product because it feels it should have a product in that marketplace. Pardon me, or they are made by someone who's very good at making the thing, not
Sure.
necessarily that experienced in using the thing, or certainly as experienced as the three of us are, especially when you combine us
Yeah.
within it. And I hope that excites people. It's of course it's not a perfect product. It's not going to be a paint that paints your models for you. But
I'm
again,
out.
yeah. But again, what it is it's just bloody good. So there's
So,
an awful lot. I think of what makes the paint mini color good is that background experience.
so is it the base allows you to do more things with the paints to allow you to paint the way you want to? Is that roughly how it works?
Yeah,
Like you
yes,
create,
to a degree. So I think
obviously there are limits to everything.
there are limits, and again, you can choose a base that's quite prescriptive, or you can choose a base that allows you to do more stuff. But to put it in perspective, our base is the most expensive one
Right.
that we were offered. So there had to be a really good argument for why should we use it. And we didn't know it was the most expensive one. It was blind testing.
Sure.
Multiple iterations on blind testing. And then it came back to this is the one, isn't it? Yeah, that's the one. And then they showed us what it was. And they were like, well, actually, the reason you guys like it is this, this, and this. The reason it's so expensive is this, this, and this. And it's like, well, okay, then, like that is what it is. And again, it's that. Yeah, and it's, you know, if you want to, I don't know how much people care about it, but we mentioned a minute ago about sort of producing things for this industry and margins and all that sort of thing. And unless you are a part of the process, so let's say you're a sculptor or you're a caster or you're, I don't know, a painter or a rules writer or things like that, unless you can do one of the parts of the process, the margins aren't great on any of it. And obviously we didn't want to learn how to make paint.
Sure.
So it's, you know, you go to a company who's very good at doing it and then you work them, and we work them so hard. They've been amazing, but we're not popular. But hopefully we will be when we put the order in. And that's a disservice. We get on well with them. We have to. It's 5 years of working with them.
Exactly.
But they were like, we've never had, and they have made paint for at least 5 different companies over the years that I know of, if not more. So they've worked with miniature paint people before, and they were like, we've never had people as demanding as you. We've never had people as involved as you. We've never had people try to educate us on miniatures painting. They've come in with spec sheets and then we've done it, but we've gone up there and sat and painted for hours, and they've come in and watched and observed and asked us questions and taught like that. So it's been a really brilliant process. And I say Andy and Byron done an awful lot of that work up at the factory. So it's been very, very enjoyable from that perspective. But yes, it's essentially the base lets you do what you do. But I'm very much of the whole don't get hung up on the detail.
Sure.
Like, some people are really obsessed about pigments, and I'm just like, why? Like, I can't. It's important to them, so we'll let them know.
Sure.
But in my head, I'm like, just use that brain power on getting better at painting. Stop worrying about, you know,
the whole which color are you using, right?
Yeah, but I guess to them that hobby, that is part of their hobby, right? Is understanding that. It's just
I think that's also a facet of people searching for something as well. I think that's people. I think you touched on it earlier about that point about trust. I think people are looking for an answer to something and thinking, how can I get into this? Or maybe they're using an analytical brain to it. Maybe whatever it is, you're reaching for it and you think, I need to find an answer to this. If I I either need to trust someone or I need to. How do you go about solving that problem? You either do it through your own analysis or you do it through otherwise. I think that point about trust, I mean, that speaks to, I mean, the fact that you're putting your brand behind it, and indeed the same with Artis Opus and similar, that is a lot of pressure over something.
Huge,
everything
huge
being
pressure.
behind
You
that.
know,
So you're
and you know
thinking,
what the
yeah, I'm going
internet's
to make
like.
it work. Yeah,
You
turns
know?
out they're quite
especially
opinionated.
gamers.
Turns out they've got an opinion. Yeah, this
And
whole
that's why I asked the question about the base, because to me, as someone who, casual painter, I like some colours more than others. I couldn't always tell you why, but I can understand that a better base, allowing you to do more, will allow you to have more variety of colours that suit what you want. And work the way
Yeah,
you want them to. So that gives me the understanding, okay, there is a reason why this paint line is different, is what you want it to be, rather than just another paint line, which works
yeah.
differently to the others.
And we could have done that. Again, when we started this project, there was Citadel, there was Vallejo, there was Tamiya, there was original Army Painter before they sort of disappeared and came back, and there was some AK, I think. Yeah, I think it was so. But there weren't lots of paint brands. I'm sure there's ones I've forgotten, but particularly when you'd walk into a hobby shop, and they were all made by companies, like
Sure.
paint companies. And, had we chosen not to do the project and it was 3 years further on and now we've got 10 different paint companies and someone came to us and said, look, do you want to do a signature series of colours with us? We'd probably have said yes. But all you're doing there is picking some colours. And maybe they give you a little bit of leeway of, do you want it matte or all this stuff? But essentially just picking colours, making swatches, which is fun, but not that fulfilling for us.
Sure.
And particularly, as I say, it wasn't coming at it from a we want to stick our name on things. It was there's a good product to be made here. Let's see if we can do it. And that's why it's ended up like it is. But just to, because I think the base chat probably is really boring. But just to close it out, it's not necessarily as simple as there's a cheap base and an expensive base, and the expensive one's best. It's just it allows us to do what we want to do with it. If you were coming at it and you were like, oh, I want the paint to be like this is the overarching theme of the paint, behavior of the paint, you just find the base that's best for it. And the best base for it might be one of the cheapest. Just unfortunately ours was not. It was the other end. But that was it. And you're sort of you're getting there. You're not necessarily getting there by starting the base and then working and off you go. You might be, as we were, many iterations down the line, and we're like, oh man, the yellows aren't working how we want them to. The purples aren't doing this. The reds are fine, the greens are fine. It's like, what can we do? And you go, well, actually, we're going to have to go back to the base. Like we can't have it where these paints are 10 out of 10s and these are 4 out of 10s. We can't have that. We want what's the phrase, like all killer no filler. It's things like that. That's the attitude we've had with it all. And if that means it takes longer, if that means we can't do as many different paints, then so be it. But it means the ones that we can do are as we want them. Which again goes back to that very beginning of we're not trying to convince people. Like you see the information, use the product. If you enjoy it, great.
It's quite a cool time to be introducing something, though. I mean, we're at a point.
It's a terrible time, Howard. It's an absolutely awful time.
No. It's at the top end. You're at a point where the technology's at like the best place. I'm looking at paint. There's a lot of people who are coming back to the hobby who have been painting for decades, for better or worse. I'm looking around at paints I've got here that I had when I was first into the hobby. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there are paints. Those early people look back, and there are even nostalgia ranges being released that are harking back to those paint ranges. You mentioned some early iterations of Army Painter and similar. Going back way further than some of those, and it was not a great painting experience. Technology of paint has moved on enormously. So you must have been able to draw on some of them.
Yes,
you've even spoken about it. So you've suddenly got all of that, all the experience of all these paint companies and seeing what's good and what isn't so good, what its uses are, and the ability to disseminate that information. How are you? What are you thinking of with that? Is that going to be just that website, or is there going to be?
Well, no.
more?
So education-wise, so backup, so support. You have so Artist Opus have a YouTube channel that is painting tutorials, and Cult of Paint has a YouTube channel that's painting tutorials, has a Patreon that's painting tutorials. We do in-person classes, as did Byron at AO and all the rest of it. And this is just to, I will answer the question, I promise, if I can remember what it is. But that it's really late. But the AO the AO thing is important. Like, so AO had been a company for a while. I've known Byron. Right? Byron and I have been friends since like Element was a shed in his dad's garden kind of thing. So there'd always been that relationship. But I had never wanted Cult to be associated with other companies unless I was really happy. Like I was like, yeah, I want our names and their names to be synonymous, kind of thing. And AO had been going a while, and I was like, yeah, it's fine. Andy was a brush, was a signature artist for them, but as Andy, not as Cult of Paint. And then they'd made the brushes, and a few things changed with the company. There was some personnel changes. There was a direction change in the company. And I said, Andy, we should, like, I'm going to call Byron now. And we'd been talking about the paints, and we were chatting about the paints, and Byron was like, I really want to make paints. And Andy was like, well, we really want to make paints. And at the time, this 6 years ago, whatever it was, when the first discussions began, we couldn't have made them on our own. We simply didn't have the financial wherewithal to do it, go and get a loan and do whatever. AO did. AO had a distribution network. AO had experience in this. And in the intervening years, obviously, Cult has grown as a company, and our experience has grown around bringing products to retail and products to market and dealing with retail and all that sort of thing. And Byron has obviously become a lot more experienced as a tutor in painting. So again, it's that breadth of knowledge. There's shared knowledge between all of us. And as soon as I visited, they got a new factory. When these changes happened, they got this new factory up in Stockport, and I went along to it. And I was just like, I love it. It's boutique. It's handmade. It's quality. No company's perfect. Nobody's perfect. Of course they're not. But there was so much I admired about it. I thought, yes, we'll do this. This project will succeed. I knew then it would succeed. I didn't think it would take 5 years. I was thinking maybe 2. That's the way it goes. So
Optimism is key.
Yeah,
I think. Otherwise they wouldn't do it.
You're right about that risk of putting your name there, and that risk of associating with someone else. We don't have control. It's like the airbrush. The only reason we have a Cult of Paint Harder and Steenbeck series, the Ultra, we've got an Ultra now. It's got the Ultra, the Evo, and the Infinity, is because we used H&S brushes. We loved them. If another brand had come to us, if Badger or someone had come to us and said, you want to do a series, we'd have said no. Because it's not just about, because you can't just slap, well, of course you can. Of course you can slap your names on things and associate yourself with anyone if they'll give you a few quid. God knows I get enough emails every day saying, like, do you want to do Cult this, Cult that? People are always going to look to form those relationships, but it's not something that interests us particularly because of what you're saying, because of that risk. You need to be able to live and die by those decisions. You've seen in our industry, particularly recently, even just the last few weeks, there's been a bit of drama with a few different things. Like, reputation's everything, in my opinion, with it. So, yeah, huge risk with that. But you were saying about the education and that side of it. So, Artist Opus very experienced in that. We're very experienced in that. So we will continue as we currently are. So producing generally weekly tutorial videos on painting things, and where we have a mini color that is that color, we'll use the mini color because that's why we made it. But they're not all of a sudden going to turn into pure mini color tutorials, that type of thing. We've created its own website, the mini color website, which is just for mini color. And either later this week or early next week, you'll be able to see like an example full page of it. So you can see how it works. And essentially, you'll be able to go into the paint sets. You'll be able to, I think I mentioned it earlier, you'll be able to go into the paint sets. You'll be able to see photos. You'll be able to see videos of them being used. You'll be able to see them painted in different ways on models. So there's no dealing with digital swatches, because God knows how many times I bought paint off a digital swatch and it's not remotely close to what it looks like when you put it on, which is gutting because they're expensive, and you think, oh, I've nailed it for this Alpha Legion project. Oh no,
No.
add yet another turquoise to the
You had
carrier
to say
bag.
you had to
right?
say Alpha Legion. My personal
Oh, mate,
bugbear.
took me
Jesus.
years, right? I was like, why can't I find out what the right indigo color?
Mm.
And ask all these friends, they all tell me I was doing wrong. Turns out I'm relatively colorblind, blue purple. Who knew? So there we go.
Great start. Yeah.
So there we go. But yeah, there's the education of that. So there will be, as I say, there will be technical data on there, but then there will also be examples. But you asked one of the questions you mentioned was that sort of barrier to entry, or that what would someone who's listening to this, if they're still listening, good on them, and like why would I, like, I'm a bit nervous, I've only used Citadel paints, like how do I do it? You just reach out to us. Like, we're not hard to get hold of. We very deliberately put ourselves in the public eye. I answer and read every single YouTube comment. I'm very, very lucky in that we have on the whole, brilliant viewership. And I love going into the comments and engaging with people. But you're going to have that access. You've got Discord. You'll be able to see us at shows. There are ways to directly contact us if you want information, but there will also be a plethora of outlets for you to get that information, however you enjoy digesting it. Maybe you like watching videos. Maybe you like me, and I actually much prefer reading, like articles, like blog articles or books. That's how I do my paint, like education. I prefer to buy the books and read them. I don't love the videos as much. Or classes, love class. So there'll be all these ways to engage and learn about it. But fundamentally, you'll be able to get hold of one of the three of us who made it. We're not, we're not some nebulous, faceless thing. And we'll be able to answer your questions because we made it. We didn't have it made for us. I mean, yes, obviously the factory is making it, but it's not literally right. Give us 3 reds, 3 yellows. Give us this orange. Yeah, that one. Yeah, great. Bosh. Stick them in a little bottle. Jack up the price. That's not the goal with it. So I hope people get that. That they we want that engagement. We will make it as easy as possible for you people to.
I think the cult, and as much as possible the artist Opus brand as well, but particularly the cult one that I find it synonymous with. That point about being able to trust it is key. And as you said, it's about the longevity by far. You can do that over a shorter term thing or over a specific product, or otherwise a lot of companies would say so. But that ability to trust it and putting that the work, you can tell the work's been put in. I mean, the number of times I have gone into Element, but now they're here in London, but wherever I've gone into, whatever store I've gone into, and I'm opening up a cult YouTube video to look at the list of paints and like, right, have I got all of these?
They're always on me like, you've got to send us the list and we'll do bundles. And I'm like, oh yeah, but I got to work on the next video. I ain't got time. I ain't got time to do that.
You don't need to. Some of those 120,000 views of the Iron Warriors thing.
Yeah, spray it silver, bang an oil wash over it. Don't worry about it.
Because there's only one silver, isn't there? There's only one.
Yeah.
All I'm hearing is
I
how
would
is
go
he
through
doing
and
a
dig
good
those
job?
out. I haven't got the time. I couldn't even commit the level of energy that I'd get lost. But you pick them up and you just think, yeah, that's the color scheme. I know the paint style is the type of thing I'm aiming for. I know the work will have been put into. I mean, your videos and the amount of things you touch on, and you can tell that someone has agonized, and that is ultimately what you kind of want. You think, yeah, I haven't got time to do this. I don't. I wish I did. I don't.
Yeah.
If someone's agonized over this, it's probably going to be the right thing. It's coming full circle to what you said earlier. I'm going to go and ask someone. I haven't got time to become a paint scientist or a material scientist. Can someone tell me what color scheme I need for this? A lot of people's experience for that has been Citadel. But once, that's why I say we're in an era where information is more widely available that you can easily get. I mean, gone are the days of that little, 8-fold little pamphlet you used to get in a box of Space Marines. There you go. Yeah, the little you send away and you get your little pots of Blood Angels Red, etc. You can get access to these different.
Yeah, if you like Blood
different
Angels,
nations.
you'll love these 6 reds. Like, yeah.
And importantly as well, the days of Citadel being my only paint range because they were the only ones I could get locally.
Yeah.
Is a massive difference on that. Anyway, we've taken up a load of your time, Henry, and
I love talking about
thank
it. You're
you
right.
so much. I think it's good. I think sometimes the dirty details are interesting.
I genuinely think I put together that long list of questions of everything I could possibly think of. I've been looking over it while we've been speaking. I think we've managed to hit all of it. There's some broader questions I'd ask. Now is not the time because they start veering away from the paint range. And
you know what? When it's out in the wild, people are like, "Oh, you're going to use these in tutorials." I'll use them sparingly. I don't. You said, "Oh, if you've got any recipes for Legion stuff," and I'm like, I don't want to start pumping out tons of videos with the paints when you can't buy them. I know what that's like, right? It's frustrating as hell. So when we're looking at them being in people's hands, which we've said May, but there's a very good chance it's earlier than May. Then you'll start seeing a lot of ones using it, and there are a ton of colors I'm incredibly excited about for Heresy, particularly. But also, I have a great love for the old world and Warhammer Fantasy, and there are a ton of colors that are perfect for that sort of slight nostalgic project. So maybe when they're out in the wild, maybe I could pop back on and maybe talk about things like the metallics that will be coming and stuff like that, and we can actually do it when you guys have got the paints in your hands and stuff like that. But yeah, I hope it's answered the question to say it's not one paint to rule them all by any means, but it's paint that we love working with, and we think we can't be that unique or special. There's bound to be other people who'll enjoy it as well.
That's it. Well, quality product, isn't it? So it can be used for everyone. Anyway, thank you so much for coming on. So the Kickstarter's got, by the time this goes up, hopefully this will go up fairly soon.
That'll
we'll
be
have
great.
a few days left on the Kickstarter that you can jump on, and loads of details there. Check the comments as well for questions about the dropper bottles and all that kind of stuff. There's answers in there as well. So awesome. Thank you, Henry.
Thanks for having me on, boys. Really appreciate it. And congratulations on 200 odd episodes. It's awesome work.
Blimey, mental. Cheers.
Thanks, Henry. Appreciate it.
Right. The Forges of Saturn. We each went out and bought a copy of this, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
So spent our own good money on this one, so that's why it's late compared to previous reviews where GW would send us stuff. I've been assured it's a glitch in the system, but hey, it doesn't matter. I was probably going to buy it anyway, so it's all
the
groovy.
Physical books, particularly these journals, I think is quite a nice thing to have.
Yeah, it's cool, isn't it? I say I need to cut them and ring bind them, I think. Or not ring bind, put them in a ring bound folder, because it will make it easier to store, have them all in one place and flick through. So, this book gives us background on the Saturnine armor and the Saturnine dread, about where they came from, how they came to be used in the period of the heresy, and some examples of them being used.
It's quite focused, as you say.
Yeah,
He's focused very specifically, almost on a particular armor or a particular unit. Is not what I was expecting of the Journal Tacticas, but this one is very focused, and similarly, its focus on Saturn, hence Saturnine, was also a bit of a surprise, giving a bit more background on this other offshoot. I mean, you think of where are the fabricators in the Sol system? Pretty clear that's going to be Mars. I was like, well, actually, there are other fabrication places, including Terra itself. But you've got the Saturn to have a little bit of a focus. I thought was quite cool, a nice little offshoot thing. So it set itself up well, as you say, to mainly focus on the Saturnine armor being introduced as it was with the new box, and then doing a whole book on it and then looking at different aspects of that, from hobbies to games to lore, etc. Yeah, I was quite surprised, but I'm quite excited by it.
I suppose actually they've named the Journal Tactica fairly well. If this allows the remit to go from Warzone to armor type to, whatever duel between two characters, it allows them a huge amount of scope to write a book and whatever they want to write it about that fits.
Yeah.
Which is cool. So, broken down into, we've got lore, background, quite a chunky section, for the book. What,
For a
30
book of this
pages?
size, yeah.
Yeah. And then we've got some rules on, we've got a scenario, of course, because that's what they do with these things, give you a narrative scenario, some lovely coloured pages, and then some new missions to be played, some onslaught missions, which switch things up a bit, and then a couple of detachments, and then rules for 4 new unit entries. Two generic, is it 2 generic, 2 Legion specific, or is it?
Yeah, because you got the Saturnine Command Squad, the Saturnine Centurion, is that right? And Word Bearers specific Saturnine Squad, and sort of a Thousand
Yeah,
Suns specific one.
it's like 3.5, isn't it? Because you get
Yeah.
extra rules. Yeah,
An extra
1,000
option for Thousand Suns specific one. Yeah.
Yeah, which is cool. As I say, I think they've done it quite well. So the background, we've got was it 3 different stories? You've got the Phobian tech enclaves of Saturn's moon, or one of the moons, an area around there, however you want to do it. And then you've got on from that. What was the second one? I'm trying to remember now. What is nice actually from that is that the Saturnine bestowal. So every legion is kind of how they've adapted what's going on with their Saturnine
I really
armor.
like these.
Yeah, it was really good.
A friend of mine is reviewing the all of the 40k codexes as they come about.
Right.
One of the things he's commented on, he's doing it from a sort of semi-academic standing. One of the things he's commented on, and I agree with him, and the thing that I think is really missing is the old timelines that used to appear in that. With heresy things in particular, they're very good at including those, but this does the same sort of thing where you suddenly get a little paragraph, and I've noticed these appear more and more, about whatever the topic is, let's talk about it from each of the perspective of each of the legions. And that's exactly what this does, and I wouldn't have expected it in a book of this size. And I thought it was super cool, as you say, over this to say, well, how did each legion adapt or view this? Because it would be very tempting to say, well, it's clearly only for the heavy assault favoured type of legions. But of course, it isn't. All legions had everything. And well, how did they use it? How did they utilize it? How did their particular doctrines integrate it? And this answers that. And I thought it was cool. And of course, it immediately sparks ideas in your head about how you could integrate it yourself or vary from it. I like that inclusion particularly.
Yeah, and for people who have that thing where they, if it's not written, they don't want to do it. It opens that up to you. It's like, okay, would White Scars really use this Terminator armor? Okay, well, they would, because they'll do it this way.
Yeah.
And, they'll act as a rock around which the army can, do their damage. That kind of thing becomes important for some people in allowing them to use it in their army.
It had that cool aspect as well of speaking about why it perhaps fell out of favour, why is Cataphracti and Tartarus sort of far more widely used, and latterly Indomitus as well. Why are those preeminent relative to the Saturnine? And it's actually there's a specific reason for that, in that these Saturnine enclaves and similar were required. The tech enclaves were required, or personnel from them were required to maintain them. That became very difficult, and it wasn't. It sort of fell out of favour. Became sort of too specialised, too difficult to maintain, essentially.
And too difficult to use.
Yeah.
Because there's that element of psychic kind of attunement.
mental load required to actually get it
mental load.
to operate. Yeah, which of course you're then reminded that any Space Marine wearing powered armor, or whatever flavour that comes in, is essentially a cyborg. They are very heavily, totally integrated with that, and you think, yeah, actually, there is a significant mental load. You tend to only hear that referred to in lore over dreadnoughts, particularly. Those being very taxing, but actually that's true of all power armor in some form of another. It's a second skin. It becomes part of the wearer, and that becomes then quite demanding when you get into the scale of something like this.
Absolutely, and on top of that, well, it's just quite interesting. We got this with the Phoebian Accords. We've got another faction of the Imperium that is not necessarily like structured how we believe the Imperium is structured. So Mars are already outside of the Imperium. You know, it's a treaty they have, and now you got like this. How many more different aspects of the 40k, 30k universe is like? Okay, it's opening up that, which is where sometimes it's those little nuggets which really help bring situations to life, like the whole background to life, which is really cool. And and then this armor's on this, like, it's not being used as much and whatever, and it's on its down until Vulcan reveals his new version. And the Drop Site Massacre, one of the many things it does is it shows that there is a new armor. I mean, he starts to feed it out, but shows how the potential of the new Saturnine armor. What's really interesting is there's descriptions and hints of more forms of Saturnine plate for that have different roles. So left themselves a nice little open space there to go and release different, whether it's unit upgrade like in this book or models or what have you down the line. I quite enjoyed the Dawn of the Age of Darkness section. The story of Vulcan utilizing the Saturnine as a kind of deep striking them in and then holding the line until others came up, particularly the Saturnine Dreadnought, which is so cool. And then allowing that Saturnine Dreadnought to be like the hammer blow to break the lines. And then Vulcan himself, like, powering through, like, gives a real sense of how intimidating this armor is, which is pretty awesome.
Oh, and that section as well about how, particularly because salamanders being quite obviously quite integral to this armor in particular, and them having that sort of forced disposition diagram. I always quite like those. Those are always quite cool. And having one that you sort of, rather than just this ad hoc squad here and there, it's like, no, you can field these as a whole formation, and here's a whole variant of. It's almost like weapon testing specialists. And you're like, that's quite cool. You sort of think of a lot of these things have been around and established for so long that you've just got what would seem like regular military units. It's like, well, not always. This is still an era very different to the 40k setting and similar, where things are being experimented with. Let's try out this new weapon. Let's try out this, that, or the other. And I think, yeah, actually, that's quite cool that you can explore some of that with these guys.
Definitely. A nice little piece with a Diosire.
Yeah.
To show off the power that actually, in the right circumstances, these guys can be more than just an annoyance. Can maybe do the job to open up the defenses, void shields, which is a powerful thing.
I wasn't sure when that started to unfold. I was a bit nervous. I was like, "Ooh, is this okay? Is this shaking my understanding of what these things are and how powerful they like the Deus Ex, exactly an Imperator class Titan? You're like, should they be anywhere near its notice?" But I thought actually it was handled quite well. I thought actually this isn't as MacGuffin as I feared it might be.
Yeah, it was. They made it clear that they couldn't hurt it, but they could.
Yeah.
They could leave it defensive for the weapons that could hurt it.
Yeah.
Which was pretty cool. I enjoyed the retelling of that part of the Backsands. And it builds up on that view we've got of it, doesn't it? Which is pretty awesome. And then what have we got? The Kalan Distill Incident, Spherical Station.
Mhm.
I like. Again, this was for me. Looking at this bit is particularly focusing on the white scars. Just an example of here's a narrative that you can build an army around, or here's a narrative that shows you that an army of this type can be taken.
Mm.
And I think that is, the allowing people to do stuff, like the implicit kind of acceptance. Yep, crack on. It will be good. Is always helpful.
Yeah.
And again, adds more background in as well. Like it's because you're adding in what did they find there as well? Oh, that's right, loyalist Thousand Sons, effectively, weren't there? Or no, Thousand Sons who hadn't made up their mind yet, shall we say? Because they then go out to find the truth. So, if you ever want a White Scars and Thousand Sons, force, like here's
Okay. There's a narrative hook.
here's a narrative hook to do that. But
Yeah.
swap that out for almost any legion. Like these things.
Mm.
The war is so big that these things aren't written about because they're happening all the time here and there. But it's what 40, 50 guys can make is an army.
Mm.
That's what you've got to remember, I think. And then what was there? The War of the Bitter Iron. The War of Bitter Iron.
Oh yeah, that was quite cool.
Yeah, so this introduces the word bearers, doesn't it?
Mm.
And highlights that era when some loyalist troops were just taking their frustrations out on the home worlds of the the various Primarchs they were fighting against. Really interesting with the word bearers here. I wonder how they came to the idea of having word bearers as their first.
Mm.
The actual story was really good.
That was probably my favourite of them, actually. That piece in there and how the Iron Hands were portrayed there and what they ultimately sort of how it ends up. I really like them experimenting with things. Always the idea of loyalists toying with some of this stuff that perhaps they shouldn't. I think
Yeah,
is quite fun.
just the story in itself, willing to blow the ship up, to hide in the debris, to get in there, that all fits. And as you say, yeah, once they've done all that and been the good guys, well, maybe we can. What is hiding in the vaults of the Iron Hands?
Yeah, exactly. Let's explore some of that. And you think, yeah, like this idea of some of these little passages and things that really spark ideas. Like, well, actually, it's in the Ultramarines' nature to kind of research and explore everything. So actually, we will have some because we don't know what this is yet. These demon things, we don't know what they are. So maybe it is something. Maybe it isn't. Maybe let's not call it sorcery. Let's just call it research. Oh,
Yes.
okay, that's quite fun. And that's what's happening with the Iron Hands here, which I rather enjoyed.
Yeah, very cool. And then what have we got here? The legendary mission.
Mm.
This is a legendary mission. I think I'd want to play. I
Is that
don't always
relatively
think
rare?
that way. Maybe let's rephrase that. There are some where I think that's awkward, or the way it's written needs such a specific setup, or what have you. And you know what? I think actually it's probably hard to judge against older editions legendary missions because we had more base missions, we had more options for missions going through. But this doesn't look like it needs a huge amount of specific stuff there, so
No.
it's easy to set up no matter where you are, that kind of thing. But provide something a little bit different. Obviously, you probably want some Saturnine, so there is that element of it. But I thought the mission looked really quite fun, and again, it's introducing more stuff. If you are going to be writing your own missions, there's ways, there's rules here that you can pull into the missions you want to write, which is again resources. These books are providing good resources on that front, to the point where I've talked about this book and maybe cutting it up and hole punching it, and I might be tempted to separate the lore from the missions. You can't quite do it because obviously, some background is on the back page of the mission and what have you. But on some of the pages you could do it. But having rules, missions, thingy in separate pieces, so I'm like, okay, cool, I'm writing some missions for an event. Let's pick up all this thing which is just missions and have a flick through it.
That would be handy. Yeah.
That kind of thing has potential. But yeah, I know. On this book, I'd miss that half page of the timeline, which wouldn't necessarily be terrible, but I wouldn't want to do it. I'd have to think about the way I'm going to do that. Because again, from the legendary mission, you then get these onslaught missions where
Yeah, I've never really looked into these so much, these sort of asymmetric things, but I think they do sound quite cool.
Well, this one, yeah, I don't know. I haven't played enough of this edition to look and judge it without playing it. But essentially, you've got moving objective markers. They progress up the battle. So, so at the start of the battlefield, the objective markers are placed in 4 sectors for the line advance, which are like the second quarter advanced from the attacker's battle edge, and then when it must be advanced, it also increases in value. So, and every other objective marker they control must be advanced. So you control them, they move forward. So you're getting deeper into the lines. So it's a good way of having you need to get here by a certain point, but not having it be all or nothing, which is the problem of those kind of missions sometimes. So it's it's a stride through the battlefield rather than a drop on the battlefield, which is cool. And there's just 3 different types of breakthrough, dawn of raid, 3 different types of those missions, which could be really fun to play. And I'm sure if you really wanted to break it down, you could write army lists which are really good at doing it or defending it, but that's not the point. So, and that's very much where I think I'm going to be moving with. To be honest, I think I'm moving with a lot of my gaming that way. Trying to set it up where we're like, cool, this is the mission, this is what we're trying to do, and this is the kind of game we're trying to have.
Yeah, it's very easy to overlook that and just take it a bit too easy with some of those. I think if a bit more ambition with that could pay dividends in the way that you're describing.
Absolutely. And then we've got detachments. So a line breaker, echelon, apex detachment.
I was very, very excited about that detachment until I saw the word apex.
Oh, what are you?
I thought it was like, oh, cool. Maybe we can have some really good units in there, particularly to have a retinue in there. But seeing it be an apex, you're like, wow, that's costly.
Yeah, but so it's the heavy assault slots and the retinue. So 2 heavy assault slots, one with a prime, a retinue, and a dreadnought. Whatever they're called. Slots, I can't remember, never remember. And the must select one of the following words: Saturnine, Cataphracti, or Tartarus for those slots. So the retinue and heavy assault slots can only be those. So it's not a whole army of Terminators or what have you, but there are other ways of doing that. So what this Apex allows you to do is branch out and have a few things without having to then use additional slots. HQ slots to then choose some of those. So it's a little bit of flexibility within that, because you're also getting the prime from the heavy assault slot as well. So I like it. It's another tool which I think could be good, because if you're taking, or even Tartarus, like, you're not going to take these as small units, are you?
No.
So if you're filling out this faction, it's a way of getting a dreadnought in without having to use a,
Prime
either
advantage thingy. Yeah.
prime
Logistical
advantage
benefit. Yeah.
or a detachment, which is, one dreadnought. So if you're leaning that way, where I want some Terminators, I definitely want a dreadnought of some kind. I want, I'm going to have,
Be
maybe
efficient.
this is
Yeah.
Cataphracte. I'm going to have a retinue. Then it's cool. I think it can fill in a hole. You'll be building up your points if you're doing that. If you took Saturnine for your two, assault units, and you wanted a Saturnine dreadnought as well, it's going to be a chunk of points just in this
Yeah.
one detachment. So when you look at it in that respect, how much are you missing out by it being an Apex?
Yeah.
And I wonder if they wanted it as an Apex so you can link it up with an Apex.
Yeah.
And do certain things with it. But hey, it's cool. We also have a Maelstrom Sentry battery. So we've got
I like this one.
two support slots and 3 recon slots. If you have chosen a Master of Signals unit, then you can have this. Support slots may only be used for Arachne quad accelerator platform units, and recon slots may only be used for Tarantula battery units. Cool. Get some down. Now, there is some talk online about how good or how interactive the way the interactions work with the tarantulas and things. Be aware of, but I think it's a cool thing to do, particularly for a narrative game.
Yeah.
So if we say we're playing one of those, line advance onslaught missions where you are attacking a fortified area, well, cool. Take a Master of Signals and take this detachment. It's a way of assisting your army building to tell that story. Can it be used well if you want to be more, functional about the way you build your army? Maybe. But that's cool. That's not necessarily a bad thing. So I like those.
Yeah, I thought that was fun. Fun little
And
unit.
then
And I like the ones that are tied to
specific,
role specific
yeah.
Centurions.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? Although,
Consoles, I should say.
yeah, and again, right, if you are playing this narratively, if that's the way you want to do it, so there might be balance issues around that and different things. But if you are playing this narratively and you're like, oh, we've got this scenario where my force is being chased through, they're heading back towards their defended area, blah, 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 blah. But my force, I don't want to have a Master of Signals. It doesn't fit. Cool. If you're at that point, change it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's
You're
not
having
going
that
to
kind of
break.
chat, it'll be fine.
Yeah, it's not going to break your game if you're, Centurion who's sent to, fortify a world has these troops. You're gonna be fine. So again, more tools, which is good. And then we got the Centurion in the Saturn 9 armor and the Terminator Command Squad. I haven't seen a huge amount of chat about the squad, to be fair.
Seen a lot of people making them. And I've seen
You
a
have
lot of
you?
people. I've seen a lot of people. Or I say a lot. I've seen a handful, but that represents quite a lot of people generating third-party bits for these.
Right, yeah.
And people converting their own out of the Praetor bits and similar. Yeah, I've seen people. This seems to have captured people's imaginations. I haven't seen people talking about whether they are that effective or not.
Sure.
That seems to be secondary to. I'd like to have a cool bunch of command guys.
Well, that's good. So you you can give the Saturnine teleport synchronizer while the Centurion comes with one.
Yeah.
Those images going to deep strike rule if the unit has been joined by a model with that. So if you then attach a unit to them, I mean the command squad have a teleport synchronizer as well, so
Okay.
it allows you to deep strike them in, which is cool because they are slow. So, in a game where things can be very, very fast, you can drop these in and be threatening if you are going with some combat. But weapon skill 5, toughness 6, 3 wounds, 2 up, 4 up. Save is
It's pretty handy. Yeah.
they take a lot of killing. So that's cool. And then the word bearers,
Yeah.
interesting.
I think these are I like the theming of these, and I think it makes them quite potent, actually.
So it's 240 points for 3 of them. Again, weapon skill 5, pretty good. A flame 2, eternal warrior 1. So a little bit harder to kill than even regular ones, and similar kind of options. And you can buy a teleportation transponder for them as well if you wish. And they have a warpfire mantle. They get that as base. So at the end of the attacks phase of any shooting phase, if your unit contains any models with warpfire mantles past at least 1 armor or invulnerable test caused by shooting, models within 8 inches make a toughness check. Units which fail the
Every
toughness
unit.
check suffer
Every
D3
unit. Wow.
automatic wounds with a damage characteristic of 1 and an AP of 2 with no saving throws of any kind can be made. So yeah, if they're up in your grill and you want to shoot them, you've got to be aware that there'll be a small amount of because it's at least 1 armor, isn't it? So you're only doing this once at the end of the phase, but a small amount of damage out isn't bad.
No.
Yeah, you don't want them sat next to your Terminators and taking hits as well. That wouldn't be good. I can try to remember what the flame rule does.
Fear 1, I think.
This has got a flame 2.
Oh,
which is pretty cool. Let me get Man Wanders over to shelf to get rulebook, which I foolishly did not get out earlier. Let's see if we can find it while I'm looking at. Nice for word bearers to get something because all word bearers players do is moan. So nice to see.
Yeah, I didn't see any positivity about that as 3rd edition came around for them, or generally word bearers players saying this is we've lost too much, etc. But yeah,
no.
cool. I wouldn't have expected word bearers to be the first one of these to have a Legion specific unit.
But maybe they
are.
were just too excited by having demons in armor. Right, where's a flame? Because it's not in the bit I wanted it to be in. That would make more sense. It's not a core special rule. Oh, well, maybe it's in the other one. If I can't find it very soon, I'm going to give up, frankly. So let's have a little look. Might be in the other special rules. I forgot how bad looking for rules can be. A flame, here we go. If a melee attack made for a weapon or model with this special inflicts 1 or more wounds on the target unit, regardless of whether damage is inflicted, the unit is considered to be a flame. If the controlling player of a unit that is a flame is required to make a leadership check during that phase for a combat that includes that unit, the value of X on the special is applied as an additional negative modifier to the leadership characteristic being used for that check. So a weapon with this special causes additional modifiers to a target's leadership characteristic.
Okay.
So because they've got it, it doesn't matter what weapon. It's got to be a melee attack. So they're putting -2 on leadership check, which is pretty cool.
That's pretty hefty. Yeah.
That is hefty. And no slouches with weapon skill 5 as well. Interesting.
I quite like them. I think they're quite cool, and the suggested paint schemes pretty fun as well.
Absolutely. And then finally, Osirian. So any of the following units composed entirely of models with 1,000 sun traits may have the Saturn Prosperine Arcana selected for them at 10 points per unit, granting the psychometry and machine empathy psychic powers and the trait. So Praetor, Centurion, Saturnine Terminator Command Squad, Saturnine Terminator Squad, any unit entirely composed of models with the Walker type. They've just got a couple of powers. So we've got a blessing here. So -1 to overloads, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
Or minus,
See if
it's
there's any
just
additional
-1.
parts to that.
It's reduced by -1 to 0. So yeah, you can fire whatever weapons you've got with much less damage to yourself, or 0 damage to yourself, which is not a bad thing, making your disintegrators more reliable. Means you can tool up on them more and go whole hog that way if you want, which is cool.
Mm.
And then machine empathy. Where are we? Single model in a unit that the focus is a part of. So target model gains 1 wound. Cool. Not that exciting. Restore a single wound to a unit.
You
If
can
you've got
apply
a
that
big
to
dread,
yourself, presumably.
let me have a little look.
I was just seeing that if you can apply it to the
Target
unit itself.
a single model in the unit that the focus is a part of. The focus of the power must be a model with the Osiren trait and under the active player's control. Yeah.
I mean, that makes a pretty tanky unit even tankier.
Model.
Must be a model.
Must be a model with the Osiren trait and under. It's a specific model, so it's not a unit. But what it's designed for is walkers, right?
Presumably so.
And you could, I suppose, you could do this multiple times, can't you?
Yeah.
That's where it's becoming more powerful. If you've got a Saturnine Dread walking up, and you've got he's got this power, and someone nearby's got this power as well, and you can put 2 wounds back on it.
Yeah.
You know, it's value to a point. I think
particularly as these units tend to be a bit slower, so they might be picking up a fair few wounds, and suddenly you're in danger of not making it, or when you do make it, you're not being around very long. Whereas this could just keep them in that fight that bit longer.
Yes, it doesn't excite me as a power.
No.
I think primarily if I was taking that option for a unit, it would be let's load up on weapons that can hurt us and make sure they can't hurt us. You know, whether that's worth the points to do that way. If you've got a bigger unit, obviously you're getting better value for that if you wish. But yeah, the ability to kind of go, I'm going to disintegrate the heck out of you, and I know that I'm not gonna whittle my own unit down to the point where it's like not effective. It's good. So that's the book. I mean, how much was it? 16 quid or something like that?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I like, if you don't want any Saturnine and you're not a lore person, then the book holds little for you, right?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But if we take a look at it, you've got a, let's say, 30-page lore section covering the history of Saturnine plus 3 specific events. Plus, say, all that information about what each legion's doing with Saturnine.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty good. Like, that section felt really good. Felt, when I opened it up, I thought I was going to just rattle through it. And it was like, oh, there's more here than I thought.
Yeah.
Then you add on, cool, your legendary mission value's going to vary on that if you play them or not. The onslaught missions, I think, are cool. And will, again, even if you don't use them specifically as they are, could be added into other mission types and be, cross-generated. We're getting, when there's a complaint that there aren't enough missions and they give you missions, as part of something else. I think that's pretty good. And then the units, like maybe the weaker part of it, but that's not a massive negative.
It
If you know what I
fits the
mean.
bill. I mean, I think the introduction of particularly the more generic units. It's funny how the introduction of Legion-specific units leaves me feeling slightly uneasy. I don't really know why. I find it much more appealing, is perhaps a better way, rather than look at the negative. I find it much more appealing that there are Legion generalist units being introduced.
Sure.
I find those more, because they're just so much more widely usable, and the Centurion in particular, I think is a cool thing, rather than having it can only be Praetors in that armor. I think having
That's
that
right.
that step down, that cheaper step down, I think and it still be pretty formidable. Yeah, is pretty good. So yeah, I think it's cool that those are in there. Just that the Legion specific ones for some reason make me think like,
Yeah, I suppose you've got
bit
4
niche.
unit entries that
Mm,
most people won't be using too often.
yeah.
And then on the flip side of that, if you aren't interested in background, but you play word bearers, you feel like, okay, cool, I'm paying 16 quid here for one page, which
Mm,
take it or leave it kind of thing. It's
mm,
I understand why people would be frustrated with that. I think a lot of those people would not necessarily buy the book and would get those, get a mate to let them know what it is, rightly or wrongly.
mm.
But sort of understandable. But I think when you look at the whole book for the price it is, I think it's great value actually.
Yeah,
I think 16 quid, it's nothing really.
yeah,
In this hobby,
yeah,
and to get a chunk of lore that took, sit down and read it rather than just like, pick it up for 5 minutes and throw it down, done with it. And the missions, I think, have a lot of value as well.
yeah,
I think it's, as I say, I think it highlights now that they could do anything with these journal
yeah,
tacticas. Like, what do we want to do? Cool. How do we make a journal tactica around that? Let's do it.
mm,
Which is a real positive as well.
yeah. I think it's a marker that uh, these could be quite explorative, which I think is cool.
Yeah. And then of course, Saturnine units, they're cool. I don't think they necessarily break things, but if you want to have a full Saturnine army, you can go and do that.
Mhm.
If you just want to convert up your Saturnine for something different, then there's ability to use them in different formats, which is cool. If you're not bothered by Saturnine, yeah, oh well.
This isn't the book
But
for you.
no, but I'd compared to Big Black Book, where they gave you 8, 9 Legion generic units, and then the rest of the book was the rest of the rules. Sorry, were a handful of missions and entries that you may or may not play with. I'd rather have this than that.
Hmm.
As a general rule, don't get me wrong, the black books were amazing. I love them, but this is a much more practical way to go and do what they're doing.
Yeah, yeah. We've touched on that before. It's what we expected,
Yeah.
but to still see it, I'd be interested to see the frequency that these are rolled out.
So what have we had? Is this our second one, isn't
Second
it?
one, yeah. And I
Yeah.
wonder if these should have been. I sort of feel like at some point someone would have considered releasing these in the other order, where the Saturnine box comes out with that name on the title. It had got the brand new armor mark in, and it doesn't have this book alongside it. Where
Yeah.
we then get later on, we get the Isfan Dropsite Massacre book, the first Horus Heresy title novel for years, and the companion book has already come out several months before. It
Yeah.
felt like that would have been slightly smoother had that been the other way around. I
I
wonder if that was
mean,
the intention at one point. But anyway.
exactly, we don't know if that novel was supposed to be earlier. Or what logistical things may have come up to change that. It's always hard to then judge based on that, and people say, "Oh, you're making excuses for GW." It's like,
Yeah.
no, like there's a logical pattern to these, and sometimes, generally, GW are fairly logical. Sometimes they're not with this kind of stuff, but we don't know. So, um, I'm sure that GW would love to get their marketing 100% every time. That's impossible, but also, just generally impossible. But also, sometimes life happens and things have to be pushed back and moved around. And if a printing thing goes on in China, which means they get pushed back a month, then there's not a lot you can do about that. You just suck it up. So, yeah. But I mean, maybe they just got it wrong way around. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with the third, whether they feel compelled to go back to the Drop Zone Massacre and expand on that, or whether they're happy to leave bigger stories open for a period of time. Again, I don't really mind if they do that. I don't think it's a major issue. Could suspect that if we do get breaches coming, that they put out the rules via, like, some extra rules via Tactica with them would be a really good way of doing it.
I agree.
What then becomes interesting is, I suppose, they've talked about these as being those experience bits. Do we ever get kits alongside some of these for some of the more do they release units that then need rules and they bring it out in this way, or do they reserve that for expansion book, which would be harder to do, but not impossible to do than bringing out a new hardback book?
It's tricky because I would have assumed, given the objective of these was to kind of have, well, I thought the objective of these, I think I might be misremembering this. I thought it was stated that the intention was to have units in this that you could make from existing kits, like we had with the Rapier crew being used as their own sort of assistance squad, if you like, support team, and combining the Tarantula with the Rhino to make that the old school second edition style Rhino. Stuff like that. Other kits being combined or reworked in some way to create a new unit without having to have its own standalone kit. But if a new standalone kit does appear, what's the vehicle for? What's the method for releasing its rules? And this would seem the only option.
Well, no, because they could put it up as a download because you've got the PDFs. They could edit the PDFs they've got for the extra
Yes,
units.
I suppose, but you just don't tend to see them do that, do we?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't necessarily fit into what they are either. Yeah, am I suggesting and crying out that they need new Space Marine stuff for Heresy? Not necessarily at the moment, but it would be interesting to see how they handled that. Now they've got their big Libra books out, and the game's still new. We're not at Necromunda age yet, where they've got enough that they can start splitting stuff off. Which, long-term goal, I could see them doing. But as I say, we're pretty far from that at the moment. But yeah, for me, it's thumbs up for the book.
Yeah, agreed. I think
I'm glad I bought it.
I was quite a fan of the previous one, but I think I prefer this one because it covered something unknown. But I quite like the extra detail of the drop site massacre as well.
I think even though the Drop Site Massacre is like the story in there, we've heard about the Drop Site Massacre, it felt new, because we haven't had that much of what actually happened kind of at that level of storytelling about the Drop Site Massacre. So this book felt very fresh to me.
Yeah,
Which is
yeah,
what
I thought that. Yeah, I think that's probably the key thing that sets it up to be even more useful, or even more appealing, rather.
Cool stuff. Awesome. Right, well, should we
Okay.
leave that there?
Yeah, let's leave that there, and we'll come back with the next one, hopefully.
Wonderful stuff. Cheers, Howard.
Speak to you soon, Greg.
Congratulations, you've made it to the end of another episode of the Imperial Trip. Thank you to Henry for coming on. Just to reiterate, the Kickstarter is live now. If you're listening to this when it comes out, it's ending very soon. I don't know if you can get on the back of it. I've only put £1 on so I can keep up with it. So I've got an option. Realistically, at the moment, I don't think I've got the money to put down on all the paints. So I'm just going to keep my pound in, just because why not? And we'll see when they're available in the shops that maybe I go and pick up a few here and there as my hobby budget allows. I'm very much one for very simple colour schemes anyway. So if I've got a project on the go, I don't necessarily want to go and then shift it all up by trying different paints. I'm not particularly good with mixing that kind of thing, but it looks good. I'm really intrigued by it. I also think I probably need to play with them a little bit. So, but it's cool. I found the chat quite interesting. I hope you guys did as well. And Henry's good value anyway, so it's all groovy. What else is there? I know said we've got lots of stuff's happened recently with Black Shields and FAQ and all that, and we'll find a way to cover that going forwards. Whether we might actually try and fit in an extra episode at some point, I don't know. We'll have to see what Howard and I can get up to with in between work and all those fun things. I think the audio is okay in this one. When we were recording, I had a couple of periods where it blacked out at my end, but I don't seem to have picked up. There might have been one in the news section with Howard. Certainly more than I heard. Unfortunately, I've got to do some upgrades on my PC, and again, these kind of things aren't cheap, so I've got to balance that against the other things we're doing, but hopefully we'll get this month. I'll try and time it as well with what's going on, because I'm not very good with computers, so if you are a super whiz with computers and can help me out, I've got a list of little things I might need to do, but it's all fun. It's all part of the fun. Anyway, if you like the show, please feel free to share it with your friends and gaming colleagues. We have an Element link, which I'm trying to work out if I'm going to get that whole Blood Bowl box or just the book, although I might want the tokens. I don't know. Maybe I'll look at a different way of doing that. But if you use Element, use our link, then we get a kickback. And we also have the Element codes listed for myself and Howard in the show notes for the show as well. Former sponsor of the show, Versatile Terrain, have just put out an announcement that they're going STL only on their on all the products they do. I think there's a small window where you might be able to get something physical from them, but it sort of makes sense in today's market. There's a lot of work that gets put into all that kind of stuff. Kind of time intensive, which would limit what Keith can do there. So I think that was probably something that was coming anyway. But it's cool to see that he's got some awesome stuff going on there as well. Sorry, that just came into my mind, so we did that. If you like the show, as I say, you can do that. You can use our affiliate links. We have one for Warhammer merch. There's some cool stuff up on Warhammer merch as well. I think they did a sale on jumpers. I suspect you're going to get a sale around Black Friday as well. there's often little things they do, either free shipping or they'll do a sale. So, and there are some good stuff on there. I was looking at some of the jumpers, actually contemplating whether I want to buy one of those. Maybe even a Christmas jumper, you never know. So yeah, we've got a link there if you want to use that. And we have obviously a Patreon as well. If you really feel like you want to give us something just for doing the show, then we are truly grateful, and the Patreon's there for that. If you've got any ideas for the show, if you've got any feedback, hit me up, Greg at theimperialtruth.com, or contact us on the Facebook, on Twitter, Imperial_Truth, Instagram at Child of Fang. You can find all these in the show notes. So look there, or my profile on Twitter as well has got them. I'll try and get that on Instagram. I still don't think I've done that yet. Has got a link tree for all the different things as well. I'm just trying to think if there was anything else. Obviously, we've got the preview coming up in not too long, and heading into the new year. Yeah, so we're getting towards kind of what we got. One more show before the end of the year, and then we'll do our little review back on the year as well. So if you've got anything for that as well, that you think maybe we could bring up, talk about. If you've got any questions, we'll have to do an FAQ episode soon, I think, because that's can be quite interesting. Desperately going to try and play more games. Hopefully the curse of me trying to organise them at the club will be lifted, and we can get on that. But yeah, all good. I think we're probably there, because I'm starting to and ah more than I normally do, which is quite a lot sometimes. Sometimes they get edited out, so a little bit behind the curtain. So we'll leave it there at episode 200. Thank you all for listening, whether it's been one episode, whether it's been 200 plus episodes. We truly appreciate it. But until next time, you have been listening to The Imperial Truth.